What is your take on the Magga movement? Do you think it still has the momentum to defeat the rhinos?
This is the biggest, most important grassroots political movement in American history. I mean, we've had a conservative movement in America, essentially started with the campaign of Barry Goldwater, manifested itself in the election of Ronald Reagan. We weeded out the racists and the bigots and the anti-Semites through the leadership of Bill Buckley, but it was time for that movement to be revitalized. And I think Donald Trump, which has brought the movement a more populist America First tone, and organizations like Turning Point USA have really revitalized the movement. And it is growing despite the suppression of information about what we really stand for by, the corporate, fake, mainstream, legacy media. Thanks, frankly, to the internet, and also specifically thanks to Elon Musk more than anyone else, because now at least one of the major social media platforms can be used to basically inform and educate and reflect ideas other than those approved by the government.
You've had a 45-year friendship with President Trump. How do you think he's doing in the wake of all of this, this lawfare, essentially, obviously meant to keep him out of office with 91 charges and 4 separate cases? How is he doing?
People don't really understand how tough Donald Trump is. I mean, I worked for Richard Nixon. I worked for Senator Bob Dole. Both very, very tough guys, but not nearly as tough as Trump. So under this enormous pressure, where he's being framed in at least 4 or 5 different totally ridiculous lawsuits in an effort to smear him and to put obstacles in the way of his presidential campaign, he remains buoyant, good-humored, confident, determined, resolute. I talk to him more than I see him, but I see him a fair amount. And he's the same Donald Trump that I knew 30 years ago. He's actually lost some weight. He looks really good. If it bothers him, if it's weighing on him, there's just no evidence of that. He literally is the toughest person I know. And above all, he's extraordinarily confident. He really believes that he is going to run the gauntlet, and despite the efforts to weaponize the judicial system and to criminalize constitutionally protected political activity, which is all he's engaged in, that he's going to win. I think he's right.
So you think he'll be the 47th president?
Yes, I do.
And on the federal front, the trial timing seems to align with the primary elections. How do you think that's going to play out? Or
look, even when talking heads on CNN even admit that the efforts to expedite this trial is just a naked attempt by the prosecutor to impact the election, when it has always been both the written and unwritten policy of the Justice Department to not allow criminal or civil investigations to affect election results. I think the American people are seeing through it. Now, I was happy to see the U.S. Supreme Court agree to hear the question of whether or not Trump actually has presidential immunity, which would void some of the charges against him. There's also a very serious, legitimate question, legal question of whether Jack Smith was legitimately and legally appointed. I think that's going to get litigated as well. So this is going to be a long, tortured path, but it's kind of obvious to me they want Trump, in a criminal trial, he must be present. So they want Trump locked in a courtroom when at the time that it is most important, that he be out campaigning for delegates to win the nomination. And I think that people see through this as extraordinarily political.
Yeah, and with the people seeing through this, do you think this is advantageous then for the campaign? Images of like the mug shot and these unprecedented things.
In a very strange way that is counterintuitive, the attacks on him through this tsunami of lawfare have actually turbocharged his campaign. It's actually made him more popular. It has intensified the votes that he did have. It has brought him new votes that he never had. It's helped him raise millions and millions of dollars, mostly in small and medium-sized contributions. So in a way that I think was never intended or never foreseen by the Democrats and the uniparty cabal, they've actually momentously strengthened him for the 2024 election.
There's 15,000 people here today at the Turning Point America Fest conference. A lot of them are still in college, young people. What's your message to young people who are in school, and you know how the schools have been taken over by wokeism?
Well, first of all, I think that unfortunately, they have to educate themselves. So I suggest that they read. They should read the Declaration of Independence. They should read the U.S. Constitution. They should read the Federalist Papers. They should read numerous books on American history, about the Revolutionary War, about the Civil War, about World Wars I and II. The schools are not going to teach them these things, but you can be self-taught. And I think on that basis, you will be able to see which is the right side of history. So I'm very encouraged by the fact that there's so many people here under 25. This is the fresh blood that the conservative movement so urgently needs. I imagine on many campuses today, as it was when I was in school as a Republican during the height of the Vietnam War, which was very unpopular, it has to be somewhat lonely in the beginning, but I think our movement is growing, and the day will come when they are in a majority.